Take a look at this. It's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. It reads, "If Republicans don't win, get ready for a tax hike." Former Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey wrote that, and he joins me now. Sir, how big of a tax hike should we expect if Harris wins?
Well, Stuart, it depends on whether the Democrats were to sweep. If they were to take the White House and both houses of Congress,
Well, suppose
my
they did.
goodness, we're in for a very, very large tax increase. First of all, because the Democrats in the Senate didn't want to work with us in 2017, a whole number of the provisions from the 2017 tax reform expire. So that means higher individual rates. For instance, more inheritance is subject to the death tax. It means the end to the discount for small businesses that we put into the tax reform. But that's just the expiring provisions of the 2017 reform. As you know, ideas that were once limited to the radical left, the fringe of the Democratic Party, have become more mainstream. Ideas like a wealth tax, ideas like taxing unrealized gains, much higher capital gains tax. So if there's a sweep, then it's entirely up to them. They could do whatever they like, and I'm afraid it would be a wide range of very big tax increases.
Could those tax increases be stopped if the Republicans keep control of the House and have a greater majority? Would that stymie the tax increases?
Yes, these new tax increases that the Democrats would like to inflict on our economy can be blocked if Republicans have either House of Congress or, of course, the White House. The Democrats would need a sweep to enact their most ambitious tax increases. However, the provisions of the 2017 tax reform that expire, that's going to require affirmative legislation to extend those. And so if there's divided government, there'll be a negotiation over which things get extended and under what circumstances. So we're in for a potentially dicey situation.
Yeah, we're in for a bumpy ride. We consider ourselves warned by you. Thank you very much, sir. One last one. Harris is reportedly considering Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro as a running mate. If that were to happen, would that ensure Pennsylvania goes for Harris?
Oh, no, it certainly would not ensure that at all. It might marginally improve her chances in Pennsylvania, but, you know, people are usually voting for the top of the ticket, not the vice president. I think the more important question is whether or not Kamala Harris decides to sort of moderate her image by selecting someone who's from the sort of mainstream of the Democratic Party as opposed to the San Francisco far left fringe that she's from. Josh Shapiro could serve that purpose. He's kind of a mainstream Democrat, not a radical left-wing Democrat. But it's very unclear what Kamala Harris wishes to do. But there's no pick that she can make that guarantees her a state like Pennsylvania.
Got it. Pat Toomey, former senator. I refer to you as Mr. Senator. I think that's okay. Mr. Senator, thank you.
You can call me Pat.
No, I'm not that familiar. You know, I'm an Englishman. I'm kind of standoffish still. Pat, great to have you on the show. We'll see you again soon.